Ngiyaphila baba Dlamini njani? Kakhulu. Yabusa. Yeah.
What does that mean? It means that they will have to fire you before they hire another in order to just perhaps fill that very space or whatever the case may be. But it's a reality.
Yeah. And I think, if you look at it, Baba Dlamini just said that when it doesn't have to be so far. I think certain things, we take them as they are because they seem far. It's like someone who's praying, and when you ask them, where do you think God is? And they start looking at you like, what do you mean? It's like, where do you think God is? Is he far in heaven, or is he here in you? And the same with the corporate world, because we always think that, it's like now the monopoly, the white monopoly, the we name all these worlds, which are there, but they all have individuals in them. Someone sat down and said, I'm going to start Radio Pulpit. I'm going to call it this. It's for these segment of market, people who live in Pretoria, who speak this language. Someone had to create. And in creation, there isn't a lot of yeses and nos that you need. You don't need to verify certain things. That's why we always say, if it's in you, you feel it, then go for it. And also another power of the mind is that, you can pray it, fast it, and do it, Mr. Kaleni, but the way that you think, there are laws that on the universe that even God himself created them, but he cannot change. Like, what must go up must God come down, gravity. So even the law of attraction is that when you think a certain way about certain things, especially money, it will not come. That's why sometimes you look at someone and think, why is it easy for them? But you see it's how they think about imali, which is why they, simple things like, don't walk around with an empty wallet. Don't walk around with an doesn't mean that when you've got money in your wallet, you must use it. There's an example I always teach to young people. I always say, if you can afford to have, let's say, 800 or 1,000 rand in your wallet, always have that money in your wallet. But make sure that you don't buy anything, but point out things you can buy with that 1,000 rand. You look at, oh, I can afford flowers. Oh, I can buy those shoes. Oh, it changes your state of mind about saying, I'm not as poor as I think. But you see, when you're always keeping your money in a certain place at a bank, but you walk around with an empty wallet, then you're not changing the mind. So the same, even when Christ was even teaching about the issues of money, it was just saying it's the state of mind. Christ said that I'm in abundance. You've got more than enough. You can do exceedingly abundantly above all you could ever think or ask for. What the eyes have not seen, ears haven't heard, hasn't entered the hearts of men. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Whether I've got much or little, Paul said. So there is a lot of scriptures talking about money, but a lot of it has to do with the mind, because we always think to be rich, you must have it in your hands. But when you can start feeling it, seeing it, changing your mindset, guess what? Money says someone is looking for me out there. Kaleni is looking for me out there because he keeps saying, I'm rich. Let the poor say what? Thank you. That's not far. If you can, because you don't have it, but you're saying what? Feel the richness of it. So those are I think the principles. Even never mind, don't leave it to school. If in churches, how do we start those conversations? You started there at Sunday school place. My question is to you then, how do you receive them? Through faith. It's that feeling of, it's not here, but I feel it, it's here. It's here. Going against the tide.
That's right.
Yeah.
Faith is feeling it without feeling it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So which means
That's not making sense. I'm touching it, but I've not apprehended it, but I know I have it. So I touch it,
which then tells us that you can delay it by the level of your doubt in your faith. Because it says that pray, believe that you received it. It's already been released. It's there. But because it hasn't manifested in the physical form, it doesn't. So your doubt in your faith, asking things like, "Kanti tlo fihla neng? When am I gonna get this money? When?" But they are retrenching now. What if I also get the letter? No. Be still and know that you have received it, which is why you have to speak in that enlightenment that Christ has, to say, I it's like being sick. I'm healed. You feel the pain. You are going for surgery, but I am healed. I am rich. I've no, not that I can't afford this thing. It's not time yet.
Yeah.
The time is
Does it ever
coming.
happen? It doesn't ever happen that God pushes us. Okay, I'm asking a very controversial question. Does it ever happen that God pushes us to a certain position against our will so that we see a bigger picture?
Remember, I said your thoughts are your reality. Is that what you be? Because a belief is a thought that you keep thinking. A belief is a thought you get taught, you start thinking it, you start believing it. So if that's what you think and you believe, guess what? That becomes your reality. You always think God is pushing me towards, but someone who says no, God it will never push me to such situations, because he said two different people thinking two different things. So even in that, for me, example, I say no, I don't believe in that. That's my belief. But if you're gonna believe it and speak it with that, because remember the mouth what? It creates. And that is something that when we're saying you are three in one, don't separate, because what you think comes out of the mouth. What comes out of the mouth, it creates, and what creates becomes what? Your reality. Which is why people say, but you can't argue with reality. Reality is relative, because it's what you see, what you hear, what you think, but it's not true.
You have done so much work, and I'm driving somewhere with this. You have done so much marketing work for big corporates,
Yes.
but you've also done marketing for yourself.
Yes.
What makes us as people to be willing to trade our skill and our time and do our best for others, because there is some form of remuneration? But when it comes to us and our things and things that we are attached to, we are not willing to put up the time and the skills in order to push that which we have pushed for others passionately so.
Because your thoughts have led you to believe others are better than you. They are more value than you. So that thing deserves more quality, excellence. But when it comes, that's your thoughts and your reality. And you manifest that. That's why if you start doing your own thing, you start taking shortcuts. But there, they've defined their standard. In MTN, Vodacom, they've told you, you will not use this color this way. You will not come in here at 10 o'clock. You will not get an increase up until 12 months. We've seen how you work. Then when you start doing your own things, you start chop-chopping. That's your thoughts about the reality that you are creating. And you could ask to say, then how does one shift from there? It's saying, as Gugulethu Nomaswazi, whether I'm still worth 1,000 rand worth of a person, I'm as good as that billion of a company called so and so. So, as said, money is relative, because my 1,000 to me as a Gugulethu is more worth than rubies. Then you see the mind shifts. Then that's when you start asking and demanding for things which you know they have to create what I want. That's the mind is, I think it's more powerful. And even in the situation that we are in, is to teach people that while you are waiting for your job, you are waiting for, I mean, you look at the failure of businesses, Mr. Kaleni. People start businesses, leave their comfort work where they're getting a salary steady. The minute they start something of their own, they get into fear mode. What if it fails? What if it fails? What if it doesn't work? But whereas when you were in a big corporate, you never thought, what if it shuts down? What if tomorrow we come back the rent? So it's having to say, change your ways, change your thinking. Do not conform, but be transformed. Be transformed.
But aren't these the same messages that we also need to be really pumping in our pulpits? Because you know, often we often, I mean, these are some of the messages that you have, that people will have, or they are wishing to have. Okay, sometimes they've been made to believe and embrace that they will have those things. Purpose is not even established.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
believe God for 1,000 rands.
Mm.
But when I ask you a question, if I give you 1,000 rands,
Mm.
what will you do with it?
Mm.
You shut down immediately. You don't know how you will spend 1,000 rands up to the last cent. Yeah, because it into I need to get it. When I ask you purpose linked to that which you will get, I don't know. I just know that I need to get it.
Mm. You've just said in the pulpit, I think, certain life principles they shined upon. I look at, even the subject of money, how it's taught, because you are told, obviously, to be more of a giver so that, you reap what you've sown. And now also you are giving towards, I don't want to sound too political because I'll get slaughtered, because now you are told to bring into the storehouse, so that they bring me food, you must tithe. But then the principle of saying, then how do we equip you so that you can go get more of this? How we can equip you to, because when we come, I was sharing the other day, Mr. Kaleni, with a friend of mine. I said, the dangers we make when we come into a church setup is a one person assuming that all 20,000 people at the same time are thinking the same thing. No, we are all creating with our minds. As I'm talking to you, you could be thinking about something else. This is already history. So when we look at to say, how is everyone? We talk about what the spirit of it. So the teaching has to be there, but it will take those who understand it, who have lived it and see it, to say, look, let me come share with you. Come share. Let's do basic Bible studies. Let's teach on finance. Let's get the right people in to teach on liabilities, assets. Don't spend too much money. How to grow your money. Don't get fooled with certain business models that are out there, but this is how you can do it. So it takes those robust conversations, but the teachings are out there. It's those who are willing to learn, can they do that? Because you see, we have to draw the lines in respecting even people's personal beliefs.
You wrote to me. I'm about to let you go. You wrote times.
24 times. I even lost count. I think it's more. So 34 times where I've been in companies and I saw retrenchments happening. And I also saw colleagues being let go. And I survived all of them. If you ask me how, by God's grace, one. And also I told myself, I'm not one to be in that pool. It's not me. It's not me. Whatever, every time I would get an email, I always say, it's not me. I'm not in this pool. And it would never happen. And then you'll hear someone next door and say, you're by a retrencher. And the next thing, they get the letter. Because you attract what you put out. So, but that also gave me a wake-up call to say, when it was time to go, it was time to go. And when that time came, no, because, no, no,
I'm speaking right now. Somebody's sitting on their details. Should, as a child of God, should I be worried?
no. It's a plain no, because it's not the end of it. But if you can take that as to say, okay, it's time for me to dig deep. Those things, desires that I had, it's time for me now to do them. And take it, I think, as a lesson. to say, okay, it's that time. Because I mean, a retrenchment versus losing a loved one, one could say how big of a pain is it? But you just have to shift the mind and move, and then you can decide: do you go and get another job, or do you start your own? I mean, I knew that once I jumped that route, going back was not even an option. It was not, because I knew that I had done my time. Now it's time to build that legacy I was talking about.
Should we be then waiting to hear people say, there's a letter of retrenchment? Or as I am listening to this conversation, should I be starting to think, okay, what if this happens? What is it that I can do so that I don't find myself in trouble?
You shouldn't. You see, you must always be at work, Mr. Kaleni, because unless you are saying you are satisfied with, satisfaction, that's the most important, because you are there for a salary. And a job or umsebenzi is a means to an end, which is the money side. But if you took away the money, I mean, there's so many people, let alone the salary, they are staying in jobs they hate. They don't love going there. They're getting sick. They are stressed. They've got high blood. They've got this. They are, working with tough employees, bosses who treat them unfairly. But guess what? They have to stay. But once you realize that, man, I've got the power to change this. It's not about the money, but it's about the health, it's about the freedom, it's about the mindset. Once you start thinking about that, the decisions of whether you work for someone or not becomes easier. The same as you could work for someone and you love it, because your state of mind is there to say, I'm going to do my best. Doesn't matter what happens here, I'm here. That's why you'll find people staying for 40 years, 50 until they retire, whereas you wouldn't be able, and they are quite happy. So I think at times it depends, as said, those beliefs that each person has about themselves. Does it mean that all of us, we must start our own companies? And the answer is no, because for some people it might be their failures, but they might be dynamic in being a CEO of a company, but for others it might not. They might be good at making shoes or clothes or being in catering. So I think if we to start separating and thinking that does not fit there, work, it's work. Whether you're working for a company, for yourself, if you honor it that way, the transition becomes easy.
Right. So obviously, more thinking sessions we need to be having. You're providing master classes predominantly with the youth. But
I'm on Gugulethu. It's connect@gugulethu.com. Website is gugulethu.com, and all the social media platforms. But those master classes, I look at, they actually were built, and the young people of Ekurhuleni, KwaThema, they came up with it. They heard me speak and could identify what I was saying, and they said, we need more of this. And you know what I said to them? I said, you put it together, you name it, you call it, you tell me the time and the place, I'll be there. That's all. And that's what's been happening. So you see, that's the creation that we're talking about, to say, when people know what they need, they'll create. But other than that, I'm open to come and teach where there is a way. Yeah.
let's important before
Uh,
secured in the corporate space, but really appreciate you.
it's expanding.
Yeah, expanding it.
Mm.
But thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you.
Shout out to all your people.
Yes. Thank you. Yours too.
That's right.
Yes.
Relate to Tom as our guest, my family. I think a conversation that we need to be having really is church out these state-owned many families. This is why I'm thinking.
They must ask Greece.
Come again?
They must ask Greece.
Yeah, they must ask Chris.
Chris.
Indebted to others. And
Thank you.
really appreciate your intelligence.
Yes.